What is going on, people? If you don't know by now, and if you're just tuning in for the first time, you are watching The Most High Show. And my name is David, and I am your host. And if you don't know what The Most High Show is, let me explain it. The Most High Show is a place where people talk about their real stories in their real lifetime, and people share their struggles, they share their joy, they often share their spiritual connection if they have one. It's just a good time for us to get down and talk about some recovery, some sobriety, the struggles of all that, what day-to-day life is. And what we do on this show is a platform where we invite somebody to sit down in what we'd like to call the decadent seat of service, because the person that's sitting there is courageous enough to show some vulnerability and be honest a little bit and tell us her journey, well, their journey, in this case, her journey, and her name is Lilly. Thank you. Welcome. And before we do that, we're going to have a mystic moment from my good brother who made all this happen. He's a reverend. He's a rapper. He's a producer. He's a director. He's a videographer. He's a life coach. All these things credentialed, by the way.
Stop it. Keep going.
That's what he does, man. And he also made this cool ass intro that you're gonna see right now. Jeff, my friend, please.
Welcome to the Most High Show, a show about recovery, spirituality, and all that. Produced, posted, and hosted by people in recovery who have strength and hope and want to share it with you. If you or someone you love is suffering, we want you to know you are not alone. This is the Most High Show.
No, don't be uncomfortable, bro. Don't be uncomfortable with honesty, dude.
We're back.
Hey. Hey, welcome back. All right, like I said, that cool ass intro was done by my brother, who is bringing in what we like to call the mystic moment. And Reverend Jansen, please give us some of that fruit.
Okay. Well, here's what I got.
What you got?
I'm reading from a book called As Bill Sees It. And It says, Resolving Fear. Fear somehow touched about every aspect of our lives. It was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. It is set in motion, trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve. But did we not often set the ball rolling ourselves? The problem of resolving fear has two aspects. We shall have to try for all the freedom from fear that is possible for us to attain. Then we shall need to find both the courage and the grace to deal constructively with whatever fear remains.
Thank you. That's man, I don't know, man. That's a really tough one for me personally. If I said this not long ago, but if I was to admit, where my character defects and whatever negative thing that I do in my life, it all is contrived from fear. And I just realized that not long ago with you. And so for me, fear and resolving it is an ongoing thing for me. It's really tough at times because I get lost in my own thoughts and critical negative thinking and things of that nature. And but I am a work in progress, man. And I think working through it is really what has been working for me is giving myself a true reality check. Breaking down what is going on in my life right now and how bad is it and what part do I currently have in it today. So that's me.
Wow, you take that really seriously, bro.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, just saying the word, man, it brings anxiety to me. I feel hot right now, you know what I mean? And my breath is a little short-winded, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because fear is something to me, dude.
All right, Lily.
Fear.
What do you think about the reading? What does it prompt for you? Or
yeah, I guess fear definitely I feel like it drives every decision in my life, and it can either be like it can motivate me or it holds me back. It's definitely like you said though, it's a work in progress. Like it's every day, in some aspect of my life, fear does come up though, and I do notice it. It's just navigating through it, like, yeah.
Have you guys heard of the negative bias in our brains? Have you heard of that? So there's a negative bias, and it's, neuroscientists talk about this kind of stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then that's how our brain,
Oh, yeah. Neuroscientists, of course. You should have said that at the beginning. I wouldn't know what you're talking about.
So essentially what it means is that a negative emotion, a negative thought, a negative experience imprints on your brain and forms into a memory in the split second, right? And then they measured it. They know how many split seconds, right? And part of that is because of it's like an evolutionary response to survival, right?
Right.
So if you and I were walking and Lily fell and then a tiger ate her, we'd be like, well, don't walk over there no more, right? So negative experience.
We'd say more than don't walk over there.
Yeah. We'd be like,
what
sorry.
is happening?
We'd say bye.
Lily is gone.
Yes. Then we would be like,
don't ever walk over there. There's a tiger.
Right. So it's like an evolutionary response of survival mechanism, right?
Yeah.
What, in today, in our society, in most cases, especially in America, in most cases, we're not worried about tigers chasing us or bears or so. It's
at least in our culture over here, right?
Right. Yeah. And in some places on the globe, that is, right?
Legit, yeah.
Yeah. But when it comes to like a positive experience, it takes a longer time for a positive experience to imprint on your brain, become a memory.
Wow.
And that's why, like, you can go through a day where you can look into a loved one's eyes and have a real profound connection with somebody or a really profound spiritual experience. And then your boss sends you an email that says, you messed up the job. How could you?
Takes over.
This is the last straw. And you go to bed, and the only thing that can run in your head is the email.
Right.
Right? Not the beautiful, powerful experience you had. And some of that has to do with just the way our brains are wired. So we have this kind of, our brain is wired to have a predisposition to be very fear-centered.
Fear motivated, just to keep us alive.
As a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
So when we're dealing with fear, it's like we both say some the same way, right? Like fear is, and so what it says here, the problem with resolving fear has two aspects. That we shall try for all the freedom from fear that is possible to attain. We shall need to find both the courage and the grace, right? And I think that's a little bit like that's serenity prayer, right? God grant me the serenity to accept things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. I think a lot of us are, I know for me, I can really focus on that acceptance, right? Serenity and acceptance. But sometimes I think what's required of me is courage. To face, to
deal with it, right?
To deal with it.
Yeah. That's funny because that just brings up, like, the way you describe it, it's almost very similar to like your biology whenever you experience like a fight or flight response, and how to go against it and how to respond properly to it. And if you have like character defects or psychological issues like me, it's really easy to embrace either one of those in a negative way. Either fight in a negative way or avoid in a negative way. Fight is anxiety driven, flight is depressive driven, all that kind of stuff. So that's a really good topic. And what you said about the negative, like laying in your memory bank, like marinating heavier and faster. It's a lot of times I deal with people that have been through like really hard times in their life, right? In counseling. And what I really try to pull out of them is the good things that happened during their abuse, during all the bad things that they went through, because what happens is that negative part just buries all of their life.
Yeah.
And it almost makes the good things that in reality happened, that factually happened, it turns it into almost like a dream or something. Like it was like a fantasy type thing.
Yeah.
And to pull that out of them kind of gives them like a lighter view, because it's real and it's factual, the good times you've had in your life, even through abuse and bad times and struggles.
Right.
It kind of paints a different picture of what your past and stuff like that actually was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of training, because if you think we live in and I'm making all this up. I didn't. No, I'm not making it up. But if you think these are all things that are stored in the banks, in the memory banks, and I pull them up.
Yeah.
But if you think about any kind of political campaign, right? Most political campaigns, the ones that are the most memorable are the fear-based campaigns, right?
Right.
About the opponent, right? And if you look at advertising, if you really pay attention to advertising, what they do is they create what's called a pain point in an ad. You need this new Lexus.
Right.
And when they're creating the pain point, what they're really doing is feeding off the fear. Because the advertising and the political parties and all these things, the whole system knows that our brains are wired for fear.
It's going to click on that, and it's going to stay with us.
So get you on that fear you're going to miss out, or fear you're going to, run out of gas, or you got to buy the new electrical, or fear of this, fear of that. And so when you're existing in a society that's basically kind of propaganda with this fear, and they're kind of leveraging that for, I'm not trying to sound like some weird socialist or anything like that. I'm just saying.
No, but you're telling the truth. That's the marketing strategy that they use.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So fear is a real thing. And for us, alcoholics and addicts, the issue is, like, when we get fearful, we end up making really bad decisions, right? We die or go to jail.
From. Yeah.
Right. When earthers get scared, they maybe make some purchases, and maybe they live in weird ways too.
Their own ways, yeah.
But I'm saying, for the alcoholic and the addict, the gift, to your point, the gift of the curse, right, is that it's put us on such a path that we have to take a diligent daily, we have to treat our disease of addiction every day.
Yeah.
In order to rewire our mind. And over time, the longer we stay on the path, the longer we stay practicing it, the less control. We'll still be controlled by fear. But I would say for you, David, if you were to compare yourself 2 years ago and to your response to fear and how fear was controlling you to who you are now, well, what kind of difference do you see?
A big difference. Number one, I've gained some knowledge through networking, through talking, and through doing things that, people in recovery ought to do. And I learned about that. And now it's like almost like practice. I understand it. So now when it comes upon me, and I'm like, like one example, when my daughter did her first ice skating thing, it was like everything in our lives. But she fell down and she got through it. So I was like so happy, right, that she got up and like completed it, and like she finished so strong. And I started crying, but like part of the cry was like my fear of like not doing this for the rest of her life, because I constantly fail. I've always screwed things up, specifically with my children, right? But at that moment, like, I really checked myself, and the first thing I did was like I gave it to God, man. I gave like I understood that this negative thing in me is because of what I've been through in life. I recognized it,
right.
and I purposefully leaned, and I give it all to God, honestly. Like, for me to be able to like break this down this way, is that I leaned into the moment. I leaned to what was actually happening at the time, which was a great achievement by my kid, and I'm like a proud dad. That's why that's an appropriate tear falls, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Not like, oh, I'm gonna, she's never gonna, like, this is not gonna happen again. This is it. That's like speculation, and
yeah.
Lily,
what about you? How do you deal with fear? Like, because and I love that you admitted that it still is a big part of your life. But what do you do, and how have you dealt with it, and maybe some examples of when you've overcame it?
I guess the biggest way is just like not running from it, because that used to be like my number one. Like, I would feel a little bit of fear, and I'm like, nope, I'm out. Sorry, I'm not doing this. I'm trying to think of like a recent time I've dealt with it. I guess I can't think of anything really big. I know there's just like small instances, like probably on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. They're just as relevant as anything else, right? Because you have to face it in some sort of way, right?
Right. I think the number one thing for me is just remembering like what I can control in every situation.
Hey, that's serenity prayer all the way right there, baby.
Which it's not like, it's definitely, I'm not always the best at it, but it's like I need to make sure I know, like, okay, is this situation way out of my control? Is there anything I can do without putting my hands in this too much?
Wow. It's great, man.
It's awesome.
That's awesome. Folks, thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Folks, that was our mystic moment, man. Such great topics. I love the discussion that comes on during it, like what's being said. So thank you for spending that time with us. But don't stop. Stay tuned because we got
There's more.
Yeah,
Don't
there's
miss
more.
out.
Hey, hold on. Don't click off yet. After this cool ass, what we like to call paying the bills from our own stuff, after this interlude, we're going to come back to the meat of the program, which is our sit down with Lilly after this. Thank you, Jeff.
Why Most High Media? Because I don't have the answers. Other people do. And learning from the experiences, the stories, the perspectives, seeing people who've been through the darkest of circumstances and then have come out of it on the other side and have lived extremely exciting, fulfilling lives and tapped into a way of being and a way of living, but is actually real and obtainable, that's why.
We packed up to tell the story of a young lady who lost her daughter.
So there's a extremely high correlation between suicide, mental illness, and substance abuse.
Come on the ground. Come on the ground. Sir.
I think as of this year, there's about 14 million people in America who have a co-occurring disorder, and a little more than 7% of them seek help for it.
You know, in my addiction, I felt like I was better off dead.
I'm here to talk about my daughter, Megan, who committed suicide when she was 28.
There's enough hope in the people that do recover to where I keep going and keep showing up at places where I'm needed.
Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high. Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high. Holla if you need some things like love and change. I'm not talking coins and things or diamond rings. Everybody wants some change, but don't nobody wanna do nothing till the pain they can't stomach. And they told me that I believed them, so I gave them to the. Everybody thought that I was tripping, saying that I be acting different. Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high. Ain't no high like the most high.
Welcome back, folks. Again, my name is David. I'm the host here, and you are watching the Most High Show. And we are going to be welcoming Lilly. Welcome.
Thank you
for hanging out with us and sitting in the seat of service and, hanging out with us and allowing us to get to know you a little bit better. As a big time honor for us. We do not take it for granted when somebody sits in the seat. It's a great appreciation from all of us here. So thank you so much. Now, to get to know you a little bit, though, would you be able to answer the first question, which is, what is life like for you today? What is a day in the life of Lilly?
Oh gosh, a day in the life. Well, I go to work every day.
Cool.
Or Monday through Friday, go to work.
What do you do?
I work at a treatment center.
Awesome.
A PHP IOP facility.
Coolness.
I'm a case manager.
Man, and how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
20.
That's super cool, but we'll get more into that. So what else goes on in your day? That's a cool shirt, by the way. I just noticed she's rocking a Leonard Skinner shirt. That's dope.
Life is pretty chill today. So I have two roommates who are also sober and in recovery.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
a lot of like chilling with them. Pretty chill life.
Cool. And
What do you do for fun?
For fun?
Yeah.
Good question.
Well, I have a dog. That's what I spend most of my free time doing, like hiking with
Hey.
my dog, walking with my dog.
That's it.
Hang out with friends. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you go to you said when you knew Costa, do you go to what's that called, like the Perfect Circle or anything like that? Is that what it's called? It's like a thing off of Insights that
Oh, Full Circle?
Full Circle, I'm sorry.
Oh. No,
Perfect
that's
Circle's
like
a band.
Yeah, that's like their support group for the patients, clients.
Clients there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. So, even though you're young, you definitely have history, right? You have things
Yes.
that went on in your life. You have a story to tell. You know what I mean? And what we like to do here is we like to, let you start off where you feel comfortable talking about, the things that you've been through in life that got you to be a case manager at a PHP IOP at the age of 20. So I'm assuming, you went through some things. So wherever you like to start, well, let's go there. All right.
Yeah, I was born here in Roswell.
Right.
Right down the street. I childhood was pretty normal. I did like looking back on it, I realized like I definitely was so much different. And I think I always kind of felt like, oh, there's something missing, or I just consider myself like a troublemaker.
So were you like always into things?
Yes,
Yeah.
very rebellious from a very young age. Like,
Rebellious, were you like rebellious towards your parents? Like they didn't know what you were talking about, that type of thing?
towards my parents. I went to a strict Christian school, so like I would wear 2 left shoes, like just to make everyone mad, or like
that's cool.
you had to have like a certain color socks, certain length, and I'd wear like neon pink socks just to make everyone mad. Just like always just poking at people, just trying to get around things.
You had something to say.
Yeah,
There was something that you had to get.
Right.
You had to come across. You had to express something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like that for a while. I mean, that never kind of went away. I was always, and I was very like strong-willed. Like if I think something's my way, like it's my way, that's how it's gonna be. It's not changing. And
So you would say like stubborn a little bit?
Very stubborn. And yeah, just pretty rebellious most of my childhood. I think everyone kind of knew I was always like the one like, oh, we shouldn't let our kids hang out with her. Like,
Oh,
she's a
really?
little wild.
Oh, wow. You were wild. Okay.
Yeah. And the first time I drank, I was probably 13 or 14. And it was just a very like, we saw it in our parents' liquor cabinet and we were like, let's just take a sip and see what happens.
Yeah.
Didn't really think too much of it. And it just kind of became like an every weekend, like.
So did you like, I would imagine drinking it, like the funky taste, it's a crazy taste, right?
Yeah.
But did you keep like daring each other to do more?
Yeah.
Until like you looked at each other like, oh, you feel it?
Yeah.
I feel it.
And we
Yeah.
learned like, okay, vodka's clear, water's clear. We can just fill this up with water. They'll
that's a
never
quick-
know.
Yeah, that's quick right there. Yeah.
So yeah, I started doing that. Smoked weed, but I hated it. I had like an asthma attack. I was like, this is horrible. I don't know why people do this.
Right. Is this around the same age though? During
Right.
the whole
Yeah.
time? Okay.
13, 14, probably
It's all-
14.
It's all coming to you right there.
Right.
You're getting heavily influenced.
Just very curious about it all,
Yeah.
but wasn't like super into it.
Did you know anything about it going into it? Like, were you ever told like, don't do this by somebody, or did you ever see maybe the way your parents react from drinking? Like, did you notice those things?
Right. I saw my parents drink a lot, but drinking was very normalized to me. It was they're very social drinkers.
Right.
So I assumed it was normal. Like, oh,
Right. Just like having a Coca-Cola. Like
Yeah.
on the weekends, friends come over or whatever, they
Right.
have drinks after dinner.
Right. And then
things
I
like
also
that.
have an older sister who would like throw parties.
Okay.
And I'd like pick up the wrong water bottle and take it and take a sip. I'd be like, oh, that's nasty. But so I did. I was like, this
Yeah.
is just what like teenagers and
Yeah,
cool
yeah,
people
yeah.
do. They drink.
No doubt.
So I was exposed to it, but didn't think anything of it. I was never exposed to like weed or anything. I was always told like, yeah, that drug is very bad. Like you don't do drugs. And so yeah, like 8th grade-ish, I think is when I started drinking, and then went into high school.
Like every weekend, you said, though. It was like a weekend.
Yeah,
a weekend like get together, fun type.
Yeah. And I went to high school, and it was again like it wasn't as strict, but it was a private school. It wasn't like a religious school though.
Oh,
It was
okay.
just
So you went from a
private.
Christian school to a private high school.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's when I started to get very curious into other things. They drug tested us upon like suspicion if they thought anything was going on.
Okay.
So I was.
Did you already have a reputation by that time?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's like I was like a party girl.
Yeah.
Like everyone kind of knew like, and she's trouble.
Yeah.
And it was a really small school, so it was me and like 4 or 5 other girls, and that was like my best friends who I was with all the time.
Yeah.
And same thing, like we started drinking, and then we were like, we have to figure out a way to get around these drug tests. So there used to be this vape juice you can like put in a vape, and we were like, oh, it's just CBD, and it got you super high. But we found out it was spice. So like we were
Oh, so you came across it like accidentally.
Yeah, no idea what we
wow.
were doing. So we were vaping that outside of school before we went into school.
Oh, that's the way. I'm sorry. That's the way you get around urines, right?
Yeah, because
they're
it
not
doesn't
testing
show up
for
on the
spice.
drug test.
Right.
Yeah. So we were doing that at school. And that's when I started drinking more, like bringing it to school with me. Just like, and everything started to revolve around drinking. Like I'm only hanging out with people if they drink. I'm only going here if there's going to be alcohol.
Yeah.
Like all I wanted to do was just, life was just a big party to me. Like
Right.
nothing was serious. Everything's just a party.
How were your grades, and how was like? Did you get in trouble in school during that?
Yes,
Yeah.
my grades were horrible.
Really?
And it was always this thing of like my parents confronting me, like, "What's up? Like, are you not trying? Are you turning in your work? Like, what are you doing?" And I would always kind of play the victim, like, "Oh, I hate this school. I'm miserable here. That's why I'm not trying. Like, I just hate everything about it. It's just not for me." But I stuck it out for probably about a year. I stayed there.
At the school.
Yes. But every week it was like a behavior contract or like.
So you're constantly like at a clash with the administrator with the school.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Every week they're like, this is your last straw. But they would keep giving me chances. But it just got to a point where it was kind of a mutual like, you need to go somewhere else. And
you're like, yeah,
I was like,
do.
yeah, I do. I do. And then I switched schools.
So let's just talk about that transition. Like, was that like Heartbreak Hotel for your parents? Like, I'm sure they wanted you to go to private school. Was it like, how did they respond to like all this rebellion from you?
They were just honestly, just like, they didn't know what
Like,
to do.
I don't know,
with me.
like deers in headlights.
Right. They didn't know what to do because my brother and my sister are very different from me. They're very, very good.
Are you the
kids.
youngest?
So I have a twin brother.
Oh, okay.
So, and then an older sister. And they're very like, follow all the rules. They're terrified to get in trouble for anything. So then I come around and they're like, we don't know what to do with her.
Yeah. That's pretty common though. I mean,
yeah.
when somebody acts out in that way and, you know, things are a certain you're kind of like, I don't know, all-American. I don't want to say your family's all-American or nothing, but it's just a very structured upbringing. You know what I mean? There's people don't know how to really deal with
Right.
a badass.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you go to, what school do you go to after, where do you go after you leave? You just go to regular public school?
Yeah, the public school I was zoned for. And that's when I started to go downhill. I was very isolated. I knew some of the kids from just growing up in my neighborhood,
Right.
but I didn't have like any sort of relationship or friendship with them at all. And I found it very hard to like get close to them. Like at school, I was like buddy with them, and the second we walk out the doors, I don't talk to any of them.
Wow.
And that's when it started to feel very like I'm so alone. Like I do have, like I have all these people think I have all these friends, but I'm so lonely.
But they're like acquaintances, basically. Like
and
somebody
people,
say hi to in school, but you can't. There's no depth to it. There's no layers. There's no like deep depth. There's no depth.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And people always thought I was like, oh, you're so popular. You have all these friends. And in my head, I'm like, none of these people are my friends. Like they know nothing about me.
Yeah.
But and that's when I started also to dabble into pills a little bit.
Now, is this by yourself because you're feeling lonely? During this part of your experience, do you still have friends that you do these things with? Because you had your girls from the beginning of high school, right? That you hung out with, that you partied with, right? Now you're in a totally different situation. You're like, you go to this place, because I thought you were going to say it went downhill because like the culture, it kind of embraced like your attitude a little bit more, but you actually isolated yourself. You couldn't connect. Like you couldn't connect when you didn't have that connection. So you feel lonely. So when you start dabbling in pills, is it a isolated thing when you do them?
Not really. I mean, at first, yes. Just because I didn't know, I only knew one other person that introduced me to them.
Okay.
I didn't know anyone else that was like into pills yet.
Yeah.
So it was kind of.
You're like what, 16 now? Maybe?
I was 16.
16. Yeah.
And so yeah, I just started doing pills, and the first day I went and bought. We were doing Percocets, and the first time we went, we picked them up, and I took like 3 of them, and I hear people say it all the time with their drug of choice, like it was like instantly like, oh my gosh, this is like my thing.
This is it.
Like this is what I've been looking for. I don't need to drink. I don't need anything else. Like this is what I need. And it just kind of came in that routine, like me and this guy that.
But that was it for you.
Them.
When you took the pills, you had that
Right.
euphoria, like this is what I've been searching for.
Right. And I went back the next day. I was like, I need 10 more. Next day, I mean, it was just like more. I want as many of these as I can get. And then someone introduced me to Roxy's. And they were like, have you ever tried this? It's like basically the same thing. It's just stronger.
Right. You ain't got to buy like 5 or 6 of them.
Right.
Well, eventually you will have to buy 5 or 6 of them.
Right.
But at the beginning, it's like one that takes place of 5. Yeah.
Right.
Stronger.
Yeah, so we were just doing those. I mean, I thought nothing of it. I didn't know anything was like pressed with fentanyl or anything. I was like, no, these are just pills. Like the doctors prescribed them to people. There's nothing wrong with these. And that's kind of when like slowly I stopped going to school as much. Like I would go like 2-3 days a week. I was leaving my house like every night.
Like sneaking out?
No, I just leave. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to go study. Like, I'd lie. So I'm going to study or something. And very manipulative to my parents. They were like, okay, awesome. And I'd come home like, this would be at like 6 or 7 o'clock at night. I'd come home at like 2, 3 in the morning. And, oh, yeah, I was studying
that
all
exam
night.
was just so crazy. We got so much done. I just couldn't stop.
Yeah. And eventually they caught on because I wasn't going to school. And they were like, so what are you studying for if you're not going to school? That doesn't add up. And I think it was they kind of knew what was going on, but they didn't want to know.
Yeah. They don't want to deal. I mean, nothing against your parents, but that's a hard thing because especially if from the beginning it seems like they were awestruck by your whole attitude and everything, right? And honestly, in my opinion, it's really... I think it's normal for parents not to really know how to react when you're being rebellious and you're doing things like that, right?
Right.
That's why, I think people like me have jobs because it should be done by, you should get help. You should seek, some sort of help, especially like in your condition. But anyways, you go and you're wilding out. You're not going to school. You're dogging Roxy's like crazy. Now, is there a scene that you belong to at this time? Like, are you hanging out or what's that? Is it just you and a friend? Or
well, it was
what
this
is all
like
that?
weird. I got into this weird double life where on the weekends I was hanging out with my friends from my first school and like trying to just drink and smoke weed and be like, yeah, this is what I do. Like, I'm just like you guys. And then all during the week, it's like I'm slamming Roxy's. I'm hanging out with like everyone that sells drugs.
Got you.
And just trying to balance it. Like,
Yeah, you're kind of like on the weekends, you're with the lighter style of
Right.
partiers, right? The more sociable crowd. And then during the week, you're with people like me
right.
during the week.
Right. And I had a few instances where some of my friends that I first started drinking with would be like, those pills are really addictive. You should stop doing
People
those.
the girls that you grew up with.
Right. And
Right.
I would get like furious. I'm like, why are you in my business? Like I'm not addicted to these. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I would just lose it on them.
When you look back on it now, being that offended by people that were kind of worried about you, do you feel like because did you somewhere know that they were right? Like, did you feel like you were addicted by the time you're starting to get to talks and people are talking to you about things like that?
I thought I was physically addicted. I thought if I just stopped and detoxed, I would be fine.
Oh, so you were getting sick if you didn't have it by
right.
the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, just that became kind of a routine. Like weekends, just try to act like I have my life together.
Hit the scene with the regular folks.
Yeah. And I did that for a while. And just a lot of partying and stuff. I got into like the Atlanta nightlife scene, like bars, clubs.
Was it that hard? Is it hard to get into those things underage? Or is it
No.
not? That's not that hard.
No.
Huh?
It's so easy.
I mean, you at least had to make an effort when I was younger.
Right.
When I was underage, you had to make an effort to like get into those places. Now it's not.
No,
that
half the
hardcore.
time they like don't even ask for an ID.
You just roll in.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got into that scene. That's where I got introduced to coke and just like party drugs and just that lifestyle. And I went through like, I call it a little phase of that because I quickly was like, this is not for me.
Oh, okay. In and out of that.
Right.
Right.
And I kind of
What was it about? What about that scene wasn't attractive to you?
I mean, I think just like uppers were never really my thing. And at that point, like I used to be very social, like before I started doing pills. And the second I started doing pills and found opiates, it was like this party, very social, like this isn't for me. I'm more of like, I need one friend that's doing pills with me and like we're good to go.
That's it. That's all I need.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Can I chime in a little bit? I have a question.
Co-host,
So, because you started the story about how you had this rebellious spirit, and how much do you feel like that the drug use was like a part of that? Like, because it's like the ultimate rebellion against the system and against parents and against anything. Do you feel like that was like a driving force to get you to experiment and, because everyone people experiment with weed and drinking, and that's like the norm.
That's a part of
it's right
teenage life,
it's
right?
normal.
Yeah.
Right. But like, do you feel how much of the rebellion part of it do you think was really driving behind it before you became physically addicted?
I think definitely a lot of it. It was very like, oh, this is what society says, like, stay away from drugs, drinking is illegal at your age. And for me, that type of stuff makes me want to do it 10 times more.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
You tell me not to do something, I want to do it even more.
Yeah.
Addicted to going against the grain.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Are you still like that?
To an extent, yes.
Yeah.
I try to keep it in check. But I think that'll always just be a part of me, like just a little rebellious.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that, in recovery, if you're not doing things that like ruin your life, right? A rebellious attitude towards things and like, not taking things as not accepting the norm is a freaking awesome quality to have. You know what I mean? I think, that's where all the challenges come. That's where creativity comes. That's where thinking out of the box comes. I mean, I think it's a great attitude to have, as long as you're like not putting a needle in your arm and like, being like, doing it to, if it's like destroying you, bad. But if it's like an outward expression of like, being different and being your own way and like not accepting the everyday blah, 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 I think it's an awesome thing. I think it's
But then
really
you
cool.
get to the point where, you wear collared shirts all the time.
Oh man,
I changed out of my
dude.
collared shirt to do this show.
Then Lily, then you
But
just
I
start
had
getting,
polo shirt on all day.
man. Yeah, then you just do it.
And then your
dude.
life is boring,
Yeah.
and you're like, I really need to meditate more, and I can feel the anger
I just want
inside
to
of
be
me.
calm, man. That's all.
Yeah,
No, you keep that spirit.
please.
You keep that spirit,
the
Lily.
dream alive.
Please. No, that's so now at this time, so did you end up dropping out of school? Or I mean, did you survive school?
Not officially. So I ended up getting sent to they call it like a therapeutic boarding school.
Okay.
So it's
That doesn't
school
sound fun.
and therapy. Yeah. It was out in the middle of West Virginia.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, my dad got like he calls it the goon squad. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but they come and they just they handcuff
you.
you, they put you in a van and they drive you there.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like no warning at all? Like did you just come home to that?
Well, no, so I had been in Peachford.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, hold on. Let's go back a little bit, okay? So let's get there accordingly. So you go you're like, this nightlife ain't for me. I don't like being all up. I like downers. I like, I like opiates, right? So then things go on, and then you end up. What happens in this before? Like, let's take a couple steps back. What leads up to your family pulling this move?
So I had gone on spring break with a bunch of my friends. It was spring break. We were all going down to the beach. And
Do you mind telling which one?
Destin.
Okay. Cool.
Destin.
All right.
We were all down there. My mom came with us. And I don't remember exactly what happened. We were on the beach, and I was either drunk or I don't know what I was doing. But
Kind of like blackoutish type
right.
of deal. Yeah.
And a cop kind of grabbed my arm and was like, "What's in your cup?" And I let him smell it because it really was at that time. It was just lemonade. I had a cup of lemonade. But I think he could tell I was under the influence of something. So he was
Yeah,
like...
you going down the board, I'm going, oh, that probably gave it away.
Yeah.
You don't remember that, but that's
Right.
probably what happened.
Right. But yeah, it ended up they called my mom and were like, we just get your mom to come pick you up and drive you home.
Yeah.
I ended up freaking out on her.
On your mom?
And yeah,
okay.
freaking out. And I ended up biting her. I bit her
Oh, it
arm,
got real.
trying to get
Okay.
away from her. Because she
okay.
was like, you're getting in the car, we're going home.
Okay.
I ended up biting her arm, and she drove us home back to Georgia. And
everybody leaves the beach totally.
yeah, so all the
okay.
girls that I brought with me went and stayed with other friends down there because we knew a bunch of people down there for the week.
Got you.
And she drove me home, and I blew up on her again when we got home, her and my dad.
Your dad's not there, right? Your dad's at
Yeah,
home. So
he's
it's
at
just
home.
you and your mom the whole way up. Okay.
But when we got home, I blew up on him and my mom, and they 1013'd me. They were like, she's a danger to
Gotcha.
other people. So I'm in Peachford, and they come with a packet of all these treatment centers and places in all across the country, all over. And they brought the one for West Virginia, and it said all girls therapeutic boarding school for troubled teens. And I ripped the paper up, I threw it away. I was like, I'm not going here.
Okay.
I don't know what y'all think. I don't need therapy. I'm fine.
That sounds like a place where they electrocute you.
Yeah,
Right? That description
that's
sounds
when
like
you're
it's from
biting
the
down
40s.
on you're biting down on the
Yeah.
rack or something like that, and you got the thing.
Yeah.
That does sound like that, man.
Yeah. So
But
I
that's
ended
the one
up.
they picked.
What?
That's the
yes,
one they
that's
picked.
the one they
Did
picked.
they pick it because did somebody like see you rip that up?
Oh yeah, it was right in front of my parents. They
Oh.
handed me the paper.
Oh man, okay. Gotcha.
And I ripped it up. I was like, I'm not going there. And I was supposed to get discharged the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So they ended up having the transport people come and pick me up from Peachford. And they had like all my bags in the car. And they don't tell you where you're going.
Oh,
So they were like,
man.
we just got a long road trip. So
Are you
get
withdrawing
comfy.
like during this time?
Yes. Yeah.
Man, so you're dope sick.
Freaking out. My mom was like, she's a runner and she fights, so keep eyes on her. If she says she has to go to the bathroom, go with her because she will try to run. She'll kick. Like, do not let her out of sight.
See this bite mark? This is me getting her off the beach. She doesn't play around.
Yeah, and like the transport people were 3 former DEA agents. Like,
Jeez,
huge
dude.
guys. So I knew. I was like, there's no way I'm getting out of this. Like, I'm out of luck.
Wow.
So yeah, I spent
Is it a plane ride or is it a car ride?
It's a car ride. We rode in this
that's
big
a
van.
travel.
It was about 5.5 months I spent up there.
Whoa. How long did it? So what was it? Talk about that experience.
So it was, it focused on like substance abuse, behavior problems, mental health. And then there was school, of course. So like you're in classes during the day and then you're also getting therapy.
So you go in there, right? Okay. You take this long trip there and you get in. Now, are you like, do you have an attitude like they're not going to break me? I'm not, this is bull. Like, I hate everybody. Is that what you're feeling? at
Yes,
the time?
I'm telling everyone I don't need to be here.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know why my parents would do this to me. It's probably
Right.
because they hate me. I was like, they hate me. That's why they sent me here.
Yeah, yeah.
They're ruining my life. Like, I thought I was missing out on so much
Mm-hmm.
back home. And I really didn't. Like, the whole time I was there, I didn't put anything into it except a little bit into the schoolwork because I was like, at least while I'm here, I
You're going to
can.
graduate.
Yeah, and it was very accelerated classes.
Go
so
at
I
your
was
pace.
like,
You can go really fast.
right. So I was like, I can get a lot of credits here. And yeah, I stayed there for 5.5 months and did like absolutely no therapy, no treatment. I wouldn't
just
put
going
anything
through
into it.
it. Yeah.
It was very closed off.
It's like
I don't wanna talk.
wah every time
Right.
you go to the clinical side.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I know that very
yeah.
well too. Yeah.
And when I got home from there, it was just like, that's when I feel like I hit rock bottom. Like,
Oh, when you left there.
when I left there and moved back home.
Okay, what made you feel that way? Because
Well-
you're clean now, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But my mindset was I just missed out on
Oh,
5
okay.
months of my life. Like,
Right, you
I
just
gotta
lost
make
so
up
much.
for this time.
Oh, okay.
And
Wow.
I go right back to pills.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right back to pills, right back. And
So
I
you
got
get right back to
right,
work.
Right. And a little more into like partying and like
Mm-hmm.
I tried the nightlife scene again. Was just like whatever
Mm-hmm.
I felt like doing, I did. If I wanted to party, I partied. If I wanted to like skip school for 3 weeks, that's what I'm doing. Like no one can stop me mentality.
When you get released, what is the reception from your parents like? Are they happy to see you? Are they like super cautious? Are they going to try? Are they making an attempt to like bring down the law on you when you get home? Like things have changed. You're not going to do this and that and this and that.
Right. Yes.
Is that what they
Yes,
did?
very. My mom, not as much. My dad's like the very like strict one. So he was like, these are the new rules and you will follow them or you won't live here. And that was kind of, it was hard for me because I felt like they didn't understand. Like,
Yeah.
that's not what I need at this time. Like, I wasn't ready to put anything into treatment or therapy. But looking back on it now, I'm like, they just didn't know what else to do.
Right.
They were like, we got to
I mean, they wrapped you
somewhere.
up and took you to West Virginia for 5 months. Now what do we do?
Right.
man? Right.
So yeah, it was a lot of, I also switched schools at this time, by the way. I switched to a different school.
Different public school.
Right. We
Okay.
thought like, okay, fresh start, new school, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And after like a month or two of that, I just completely stopped going altogether.
And you were 17?
17 at this
17
time.
so, okay.
17, completely stopped going.
So you drop out. basically.
Yeah, drop out completely.
I know mom and dad is not happy with that. Like, they're like, what is happening?
Yeah, right. And at that point, my relationship with mom, dad, my brother, my sister, like, there's no relationship there. Right. We can't have, like, a civil conversation. We're either butting heads or we're not speaking.
Yeah.
So very unhealthy relationships. And that was everywhere in my life. Like, a lot of my friends were kind of like, I can't really be around you. Like, it's just too much. Like, you're always either sick or, like, you're asking people for money.
So people are not being around you now.
Right. Yeah. It's like no one wants to be around me. And at that time, I was in and out of Peachford.
Okay.
And
so what's the in and out, like? You're getting caught or something, or something?
So like,
what are the episodes that get you in and out of Peachford?
So usually I'd get caught with drugs or something, blow up on everyone that caught me, and then I'd always threaten them, like to hurt them.
Then they would call.
And they'd call
1013.
And I knew right away. Like, I knew the second I started blowing up, I was like, I already know where I'm gonna end up. So, and 2 of the times ended up in I got the cops called on me. So I showed up at my parents' house at, like, I'd been out all night, show up at like 5 a.m, and I was doing like all these scams at this time, like Venmo scams, Cash App, just any way I can get money, because I couldn't hold a job. And I knew I wasn't going to get a job that I was going to keep.
Right.
And I was also stealing money from my dad. Like, anytime I was around him, I was just going in the wallet, seeing what I could, trying to take a picture of his credit card, like anything I can do, anyone I can steal from. And he saw like an Uber charge I put on his card. So he was like, you're not coming back in my house until I have my money. And of course, I just walk in the house without the money. And he was trying to kick me out because he was like, this is my house. Like, you're not disrespecting me like this. You need to leave. And I was like, no, I just need to go to bed, whatever. We get in this huge fight, and it results in the cops getting called on me. I'm, like, running through the house, like, breaking stuff, pushing stuff off the tables, like, just super reckless.
Manic.
Yeah. And that was, like, always my number one thing, is, like, just cause a huge commotion, break stuff, like, freak out. And
I don't think that's planned, though. You're probably, like, feeling like there's nothing else. F this, man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Because you know you're going to Peachford, and that's probably not where you really want to go, right?
Well, and this time I actually ended up, I got charges in adult. I got charged with 4 felonies because I was 17, so they can charge you as an adult when you're 17.
Yeah.
So my dad was like, we're going to teach you a lesson. Like, we're going to tell them to, like, hit you with whatever charges they can. Not thinking like, okay, they're about to give her 4 felonies and take her to Fulton. So I got arrested. I spent a few days in jail, and then they took me to Peachford after to, like, stabilize me. And while I was in there, my mom called me and told me about, like, a rehab that she found. And I guess, like, while I was in jail, one of my friends called my mom and told her, like, everything, like, your daughter's super strung out. This is what she's been doing. Like, she really needs help. Like, I can't watch this anymore.
Wow. Now, what is your mindset when you enter? Because you're 17 and you're going into a jail cell. Was it a big thing to you in your head, or were you just like whatever? Or
it was a big thing for me. I was like, I can't believe, like,
scary, probably scary too.
Yeah,
man.
like it was just crazy because, like, a year before that, this was all fun and games. It was just everything was fun, nothing was serious.
Things have changed.
Here I am, like, I'm withdrawing like crazy. I'm sitting in a jail cell. I have 4 felonies pending. And
that in itself, man, I mean, that's scary.
And no one will answer the phone. I'm calling everyone. No one will answer the phone. And it was very, at that time I couldn't see, like, I brought this upon myself. I was so mad at the world. I was mad at everybody.
Just anger is like the emotion that's being expressed out of you.
Right. And that was always my go-to, like, just anger. And So I got out, I went to this, I was like, okay, I guess I'll go check out this treatment center, because the terms of me being bailed out was I was mandated to go to treatment. So I found this treatment center. I go in for like my pre-admission with the guy, the director, and he kind of sits me down and he's like, your mom's told me a little about you, but like, I want to hear your side of things. And he kept telling me, you're going to die if you don't get sober. And like, do you see how fast your life is going? The director's telling you this, yeah. And he's like, do you see how fast your life has gone downhill? Like, you really need to get sober. And I'm just sitting here. Everything's in one ear, out the other. I'm like, this guy has no idea. He does not know me. Like, I don't need to get sober. I don't need to go to rehab. Because at that point, I really thought, like, I'm just physically addicted. If I can get past the withdrawals,
right,
like,
the withdrawal, then you're good.
Yeah, I'm fine. Because I was like, I've never tried to stop. So how do I know if I can't stop? Which in reality, I had tried so many times, just in other ways. Like, okay, I'm only going to do it at this time of night.
Regulation.
Or like a little management. Like, I don't know. But, yeah, I agreed to go because I knew I had to go.
Yeah.
And I stayed sober for probably 30 days, 40 days.
Now, okay, but I mean, you've done that before in treatment, though, right? I mean,
Let's pause for a second. Dropping frames on the camera.
Oh, okay.
And I want to see if I can fix it real quick. It's live, baby. It's live. Because
I see it. I mean, I've been watching it. It looks like it's going.
Well, I can see it dropping frames over here.
Well, it's doing it on David too.
It is doing on David too?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can't fix it now. I updated all the programs and everything.
Is that what's happening?
Fix it, but something.
Can you pull focus for me?
Oh yeah.
So what's gonna be happening then? We're gonna see off of.
Let's just keep going.
Yeah. All
just keep running it like normal.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Coolness.
Just real.
Real life.
3, 2, 1.
And we're back.
And now. Okay, so you do your 30 days clean, and you decide to go to this place. So what's happening there?
So I'm in their like outpatient group, and I immediately move in with. There's some. So it's weird. So their housing isn't connected to the program, but a lot of people go off and live together, and they call them like these group
you go
houses.
to like an apartment complex.
Yeah, and everyone will kind of live together, but it's not really tied to the program.
Right.
But like they don't control it, but people will just go off. It's a lot of time the people that have like the most time sober will go off and like move into these houses.
Be like big brothers in the house. Or
and
big
then when
sisters
someone
in the
new
house.
comes in, they'll let you like, if you don't have anywhere to go, they'll let you like sleep on their couch, or they'll make you like a little room. And so my parents were like, you're not coming home, so you're gonna go live with these girls and you're gonna stay here. So I move in with like, I think there were like 5 girls that lived in this house. And
you guys are all like the same age?
No.
Okay.
I'm like I'm probably the youngest one. Cause I'm like 17 at this time.
Right.
And there's all the girls were probably in their like late 20s, mid-late 20s. And they all had a good bit of time sober. And I stayed sober for, like 40 days. And
now are things like, is recovery stuff like being introduced to you and you're kind of taking it in? Are you learning anything, or is it still one ear out the other type of
it's like I'm taking some of it in, but it was always like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like I think I could have a problem, but I don't know if like this is what I need to do, and I don't know if these people like know really what's going on with me.
Right. They you know, an addict, a big thing about people in addiction is that we just think we're so unique.
Right. No, that's exactly what I thought. Like I'm so different
Nobody's
than all these
like
people.
me. Yeah.
Right.
They're not getting high like I'm getting high.
Right.
Right. So, okay, I get it.
Yeah, so I just thought
but you're kind of taking something in. I feel like this is these are steps in a different direction, maybe starting steps.
So I'm taking a little in, but I also like there was a small part of me that wanted to get sober, and everything else was telling me like I cannot get sober. I cannot live without substances. Like I can't do this. It's not possible.
Right.
But I stuck around. A lot of it was like my legal stuff really kept me there.
Oh yeah.
Because I knew I had to be there. And then after about the 40 days, I ended up getting taken in on a warrant I had. And
so you're kind of like knowing that that's going to happen.
No,
right?
we had no idea. Yeah, they showed up at my parents' house one day. I
this
was
is
over there.
beyond your charges.
Yeah.
So another warrant from what? From what happened?
So I showed up at my dad's house. Took a golf club to his car, smashed it up.
Whoa. This is before you go to Peachford or jail or anything?
Yes.
Okay.
Just destroyed it.
You are mad.
Yeah. And there's a lots of resentments there.
Yeah,
Lots of resentments that I had no idea were resentments. I was like, oh, we just don't get along. And later I realized that's because he's like the authority and he like knows how to hold boundaries and
you have like this natural rebellion in you. Like,
so me and him are very like we're butting heads constantly. And yeah. So
that's a good thing to realize now that we're looking back on it, right? That's
well, now
cool.
we realize we're very similar. So like when one of us gets mad, it's like we just keep going up until something like that, like the cops get called. And yeah, so I go in on a warrant, I stay sober, I come back to treatment, back to the same place.
Same house?
Yes.
Cool.
I'm there for probably another like month or two, and then one of the girls that lived in the house, she went back out and she ended up passing away in the house. She overdoses. And that like
wow.
I had known people that have overdosed, but I've never like been on the scene, seen it, like experienced all of that.
Yeah.
We had to wait for the cops to come question all of us for hours. And I'm 17. I have like 60 days sober.
That's a lot.
Just man. It was very it was eye-opening too, because I was like, this is unfortunately like the result of this disease.
Witness,
right?
An eyewitness to what happens when you
right?
keep abusing those drugs, man.
Right.
Holy moly, that is such a lot of stuff in such a little bit of time, and we're not through. So you do 60 days. So you come back from the warrant. Were you friends with her?
Kind of. It was very like a. It wasn't. I wouldn't say super friendly, but I mean, she was very quiet, kept to herself. And I lived on the couch downstairs, so it was like, hey, how was your day?
Passing.
Yeah. It was more, as sad as it was more like shocking too.
Right.
Just to like, I mean, it really just
so you're not
me.
like
a wake up call.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah,
and you're not really personally invested in this, but you are witnessing this, and that's
right.
Like the feeling of shock before like heartache.
Yeah.
Right. And like watching
yourself.
the other girls that have lived with her for so long, like watching them
Mourn,
go through it, and
yeah.
then like having to like her family come over and her parents, like watching that.
Man.
It was very eye opening, and it was a big wake up call. And
so when you look back at all these harrowing adventures, right? How do you see them now? Like as you're telling the story, because that's one of the things we talked about, right? Which is like, but you have had a lot of time in recovery at this point, right? Or some time, right? Like when you talk about these things now and you're telling the story, how do you see it? How does that differ from how you thought when you were experiencing it to now as you tell it? Like how do you see it now looking back at it?
You mean like that situation?
Like when you
or?
reflect on it,
yeah,
when you reflect on your life and you're telling it, like how do you process it? Like what are you looking back at when you see that person?
I'm looking back at someone like, I just see myself so closed off, so closed-minded, running from everything, Because for a long time I was like, oh, I'm not running from anything. I just like to like do this. But now I've learned like, no, I was running from life. I was running from my feelings. I was running from everything. Like I didn't want to deal with anything. It was my escape.
Yeah. Good word.
And a lot of it now is like, I think I just look back on all the situations as almost like a motivation of like, I have to keep doing what I'm doing because I'm always like one bad decision away from being back in that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I try to remember that like one of the biggest things today for me is not forgetting where I came from, because I know like, and I hear it all the time, you're always one bad decision, one bad move away from a relapse. And I know that's true for myself too. And that's why I have to remember all those times, but not sit in them.
Yeah.
I
you
think
can't just like let it lay on top of you like
yeah,
a quilt.
it's definitely
it has to be your motivator to like not do those things anymore.
Right.
How do I consistently not do those things ever again?
Right. That's definitely something I had to work on, like remembering it, but not sitting in it and not, oh, poor me, I had to go through that, like, right, or beating myself up for things.
Well, it seems like so. You know, just to push forward a little bit, because you did say that was your turning point. Now, what is like going through my head right now is, you know, this time period is very fast, and like it's very if it's like 17, 18 to where you are today. To me, that's extremely a fast pace. So what, like, how do you see like the light of like, okay, I'm going to not, even though all this stuff was like in and out of my ears for so long, now not only am I going to try to understand it, I'm going to be responsible for it, and I'm going to be helpful, and it's going to be like my career. Like, how does that whole process take place?
It really started by, I mean, I spent a while after that going in and out, but
again, still.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I finally, I went to sober living. I kept my mouth shut.
And at this time, are you an adult by this time? Are you 18?
I'm 18 at this time. I go to sober living. I get a sponsor, and, it didn't really click at first. It was kind of like, I have to do this because I don't know what else to do. Like I've tried this my way 20 times. I've done what I think is best for me so many times, and like it leads me back to the same place every time.
Right.
And it was also a very strict place, which is exactly what I needed. And at the time, I wasn't a fan of it at times, but now I'm like, that's like, that place definitely helped me, and that's exactly what I needed. And yeah, I think it's hard to say when it clicked, but like I would remember having these little moments, like sitting out on the porch at our sober living, and I just think like, I have not thought about getting high in a day. And that was like crazy for me that I hadn't thought about it in a day.
Yes, it reminds me of like the willingness, right? Like, you know, willingness, the door shuts, you know, and all it takes is a little bit of willingness to crack the door.
Right.
And it's like you got a little bit of willingness.
Right.
And then you started seeing the result of when you were operating out of willingness to do things, even though you didn't necessarily want to do them fully all the time, but you were just willing to do things differently. Yeah.
Right.
You know, I see it just this change because, you know, I again, you know, as a father, you know, with girls around your age group, you know, doing, you know, going through what you went through, which is really similar. I mean, there's a lot of things that I can relate to in your story, you know, at that age even. But it took so long. It's just such a testament to I don't know what that you were able to get a grip on things when you did, being that deep in it. You know what I mean? To, you know, going like in cuffs to West Virginia and not really even taking it in, to like something, I guess it would be divine. I don't know how.
I think that there's a level of intelligence going on.
Because
running scams at 16, 17 years old,
you're hustling.
cash apps, Venmo scams.
Right, you're hustling.
We
just brushed over that.
Yeah, we're just going to take pictures of credit cards. I'm thinking, damn, that's a brilliant idea. So I think there's like a level of intelligence and creativity that
that's there.
Yeah, like somebody said that like addicts were just extreme humans.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, and hearing, and which is, I can see why you're like working in the field and you're involved in this, because you seem like somebody who's very intelligent, and a lot of us are, right? But not at 17 years old doing that kind of. That's like a criminal Doogie Howser. You don't know who Doogie Howser is, but we know who Doogie Howser is. Do you know who Doogie Howser is?
No, I do not.
Okay. It was this child genius
doctor, surgeon,
doctor guy.
Yes.
But anyways,
okay.
I just think it's so cool that you were able to do that. And like one thing that we told a while ago, I remember having a conversation with your friend Costa, because he was a young man into recovery. Christian would say, dude, you have got such a head start. Just think about where you're going to be, if you keep, choosing to live this lifestyle. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
David didn't get sober until he was 60.
I'm 61. No, but very late. So, I don't know late. It was my time, but definitely not at the age of
20.
18, 19, 20 that I started, things like that started taking place. I didn't have the capacity to like grab it all in like you did. That's amazing. It's a great story.
So before we wrap, I want to dive in a little bit more on just the recovery stuff, right? Because like you said, that moment of realization that I haven't been high in a day. So where else do these like kind of, I guess, wins or nuggets of the proof of this recovery thing might be working? And you kind of, you seem like someone who may have abandoned yourself to recovery, into this way of life. So how does it get to that point where you finally completely surrender to this process?
Honestly, I think it started when I left sober living. And I had this experience of like, oh, I've been sober like 6 or 7 months now. I don't need to call my sponsors much. Like, I don't think I need to go to a meeting every day. I'm not at sober living anymore. And I had this period of being dry in sobriety. And I did that for about 2 or 3 months. And I was like, I never want to feel this way again. And I picked up a new sponsor. I was actually at a HA convention, and like everyone was talking about this girl. So I was like, okay, I have to meet her and I have to pick her up. And we just started like diving into the steps like so intensely and so in depth. And that's kind of when it all changed for me.
Wow.
And
beautiful thing. I mean, the sponsorship is such a beautiful thing, because here's somebody who's pouring into you.
Yeah, man.
For free, basically.
Right.
I mean, also because it's as a part of the program. It's like you can't keep it if you don't give it away.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's the structure of the program.
But so diving deep into the steps. What step has been the most, I guess, fruitful or the most impactful for you?
That's a good question.
Probably 4. Probably 4.
That tough
but
one.
probably also like I'd have to say 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
Because just like doing that, they seem so small, and like the nightly inventories and stuff like that. It seems so little, and like, oh, this won't change my day. But I'll have points where I'll do my nightly inventory for like months straight, and then I'll forget for a week. And it throws everything off. Like it just feels weird. Yeah. And I'll go through points where I like do it and then forget, and I see such a difference. And that's why I'm like, that one really, like it has to be a routine for me.
Yeah.
And it's because on a day-to-day basis, there's so many little things that like I never stop to think and look at.
Yeah.
And when I get like pen to paper, or I'm doing it on the app I have, like, it starts to all break down.
Yeah. Well, you're convicting both David and I to do
a
inventory tonight.
I got to check up. I got to check.
That's why both of us got real quiet, because we were both like, when was the last time I did a nightly inventory?
Continuous inventory.
Yeah, well, I think it's a brilliant part of it, right? Because if we are practicing that step, we're not letting things carry on from one day to the next, which, you know, they build and they calcify and they corrode. And when you're able to process it daily, it sets you free.
Right.
You know, so the next day you're able to wake up.
It's where the change of life, of a lifestyle is going, is doing it consistently, understanding, you know, really looking at the small things, being able to have the capacity to say, oh, these little things, you know, it's really amazing that I mean, these are really big things that you're talking about. I mean, living that way.
Now, what about step 11, conscious contact with God? What's that look like for you?
That is like still a work in progress, and I feel like always will be.
Yeah.
You know, like growing that relationship.
The day you think you got it, it's probably the day you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's always been a little hard for me just because, like, I was brought up in a very religious household, and I kind of strayed away from that. So it's kind of getting those old views out and really like focusing on what do I want my higher power to look like.
Yeah, you got to ignite your own spirituality,
right,
your
like,
authentic
what does my God look like?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always been a work in progress. It's kind of the same thing with the nightly inventory. Like, I'll have days where I pray and days where I don't, and I notice a huge difference. Or like if I find
you're seeing it then, right? Yeah.
And if I find myself praying like when I'm in tough times, but not praying like just simple prayers during the day or during the week, that's when I kind of get like, okay, I'm being very selfish, because I'm like, okay, God, this happened, and you know, I'm going through this right now, but I'm not praying like every day. I try to keep a balance with it, because that's how I used to be. Like, the only time I used to ever pray is when I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
When you literally say, "Oh God,"
right,
then the prayer starts.
Yeah.
Please, God.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful. Like, even because, you know, it's almost like you almost don't. It's just that you're praying, right? Like
you're
just,
or you're
that's
just
the beauty
like
of the
it's
higher
a part
power.
of something.
It's
man,
just
you know?
something else that's not
it's in
you.
it's in your essence of you somewhere. You know, that's a beginning. I mean, and if you work on it daily, I think it's gonna grow and it's gonna prosper, and you're gonna definitely find, you know, what you're looking for. You know, I mean, in a higher power.
So, okay, I got some more because I want to make sure we get this, because this is really good. But like, because you work in the industry, and we were kind of rapping a little bit before we started, and you talked about like kind of like, because a lot of people who work in the industry get their own program confused with the job, right? And you know, I run a ministry in it. I work with a lot of people. David's in that industry. So what do you do to maintain that kind of separation of those two worlds for yourself?
I try to, so I have a set day every week I meet with my sponsor.
Yeah.
And I make that no matter what. Like, I plan my week around that. Because it is hard. Like, you're around it all day, so it's like the last thing I want to do is
why am I going to go to a meeting? I've been meetings all since 7:00 in the morning, man.
Right. And that's where I go back to like what I was saying earlier, like remembering where I came from. And like in early sobriety, I was at a meeting twice a day. Like, I knew I had to be at a meeting twice a day. I wouldn't make it without it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I go back to. And like, I remember people used to always tell me, like, the second you tell yourself you don't want to go to a meeting, that's when you need to get up and go to a meeting.
I'm glad you're listening to things like that, because most people don't, man.
Well, for a while I didn't. I was like, no, I don't want to go.
They say there's two times you should go to a meeting: when you want to go and when you don't want to go.
Right.
That's right.
And every time I don't want to go, I end up going, and I feel like I feel so good after. I'm like, I'm glad I went to this.
I've never walked out of a meeting. I walked out of some church services going, man, I probably could have done something else.
Yeah.
But I've never walked out of a meeting and been like, could have done something else.
No, there's something.
Something always.
I've never said, man, I wish I was just somewhere else at this time. When I go there and I'm in it, when it's done, it's like, oh yeah, that's why I do this every single time. And that's the truth. They're very precious. Now, but listen, okay? Now, one thing about you, Lilly, is that you are our opportunity to reach a whole different demographic. All right, you are the youth, not the youth. You're a woman, but you're a lot more youthier than we are.
Back it up.
You're not a kid. All right, you are an adult. Okay, but we are old. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. We are old, and you are in your prime. Okay, and I just want to ask you, when you see a newcomer, or if you think of somebody, in a place where you once was at. What can you give, what kind of words can you give somebody that might be on the fence or, of sobriety, or just don't know anything about it, or just have no clue of like what recovery and living a life sober is even about? What would you say to that person?
Well, I always tell them, especially if it's like a younger people too. I know in the beginning, people were always like, you might be a little too young to get sober. And I always tell them that. I'm like, you don't think you're too young to get sober, because there's plenty of us out there. I know a lot of them I'm friends with.
Right.
And I always tell people too, like, don't give up and throw this away before you see like how good your life can get.
Wow.
Because I know people like you want to burn your life down in 5 years, but when you get sober, you want everything to get better in like 30 days, 2 days. And, so I always make sure to tell people to just not like give up before you see how this can change your life. Like in what can happen.
Words of wisdom. Man, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure talking to you, getting to know you a little bit better, and just, it's really, I think it touched Christian and I both, and Jeff, of what you went through and like how immaculate you've changed. I mean, what a change, what a life to live, because I did not do those things. It was not in my wheelhouse to like even notice. I was just so ignorant, you know what I mean? And man, I just commend you and thank you for being here. All right. Hey Jeff, what camera can I look into? Is it all, can I look into this one? Oh, okay. Folks, check it out. All right. Man, Lilly just shared, and I believe she was speaking really to a younger audience of people that are trying to get in, are thinking about sobriety. What does it take what does a life in recovery look like? And it's about, not giving up. And there is no age limit to sobriety. That is like a false, I don't know who said that. That's just nuts to me. There is no age limit to living a life of recovery, and like, don't quit, because you know what I mean? Stay in there and grind it out a little bit, and you will see the difference that living a life of sobriety and recovery is all about. And we thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in and hanging out with us. This is the Most High Show. Thank you.